All right, welcome back, everybody. Mark Young here, computer science and IT teacher at Webster Groves High School. This is part 4 in our multi-part series in discussing how to fully integrate Git commands, GitHub project management into a Unity game project. Where we left off at the end of part 3 was discussing how to manage your project using the projects portion of a project website on GitHub. So we just had created some example to-do items and talked about how we can spread them into different categories to communicate to our team that is collaborating where each person is or where the team as a whole is. What I wanted to talk about before we really get into branching is the automation piece, which we had just set up in part 3. So what I did is I went over to issues and I created a new issue called Turtle Sprite Sheet Needed. So I open it up and take a look at it. I went through and said that I need a turtle sprite sheet on my team. I want this to be assigned to the artwork sprites team. I labeled it as not a bug, but that I need help. I need the sprite team's help in making me a new sprite sheet for a turtle. Assigned it to that team. I didn't set any kind of a milestone, but I did go through and drag and drop a sketch image in here so my sprite sheet team or my artwork team has an idea of what my expectations are. So the main reason I drag and drop this picture in here is to let you know that this isn't just all text. In the project management side of things, you do have the ability to put sketches and different types of files up there that you think a team should have access to when they begin their task completion. So I want to make sure that my artwork team knew that this is what I had in mind for the turtle when they begin doing the artwork. Now, because I set up automation so that all issues go to the team's to-do list that I assigned it to, if I go over to the artwork team, I will see that there is a new item that popped up. And this is where the automation comes into play, and it's really pretty cool. So because I assigned it to this team, it will automatically show up under their to-do column. If I click on it, there's that little picture that I added when I created an issue along with a description. Now, if I had multiple teammates involved, I could have assigned this to a specific teammate on the artwork team, or whoever is managing this particular project, the artwork team, that team leader could then assign it to one of the many artists on the team. So really pretty cool that you can go through and get that going and make it to where things are automatically showing up in columns. So there isn't so much clicking and so much work. So that is really pretty cool. So you saw I just dragged and dropped it into the progress column, and so now my team is saying that this is being worked on. Okay, so the next thing we want to take a look at is branching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this C# script file so we can take a look at a few things. By default, with Unity, unless they've changed it in the most recent update, and they frequently push out new updates, which is cool, but also makes it tough to be an expert with Unity ever, they by default had mono-develop as the integrated development environment in which to program in. Mono-develop, in my opinion, while it was effective and it worked, was a little bit sluggish, and a lot of my programmers tend to have more experience in the Windows world, and so they're more adept to using Visual Studio. So I don't know if they have changed the installation to include Visual Studio or if they're still using mono-develop, but Visual Studio does now work. They made a version for the Mac, and so how do you switch that over to where when you click on a C# script, it takes you to Visual Studio, not mono-develop? If we go under Unity and Preferences and then click on External Tools, it should now say Visual Studio instead of mono-develop. Again, by all means, if you like using mono-develop, continue to use it. What I don't know is whether or not mono-develop has Git integration. I know Visual Studio does, so that's the one I'm going to stick with, but I'm not 100% sure about that for mono-develop. Okay, I should have my script open up, and this is what it looks like. And yes, Visual Studio does kind of look like mono-develop when it's on the Mac, but that's just because they tried to make it look like it's, cohesive with the overall Apple Mac OS design. Okay, so you can see I have my work here all set up, And what I want to do is I want to take a look at branching. Okay, so what we're going to do in Visual Studio is we're going to go up to version control, because really, aside from the project management aspect of GitHub, what GitHub is a website that allows you to use Git commands to handle the versioning of a project so that we don't have folks working on the same files and overwriting the work. It also creates a whole trail of all of the previous changes so we can revert if we want to. So I'm going to make a new branch, which I would recommend any team using version control quickly makes those branches just as quickly as they make their projects on GitHub's website, and get off that master branch so that we're not always making all small little changes being pushed to the main branch. So I'm going to go to version control, manage branches and remotes, and say that I want to create a new branch in addition to master. So maybe I'll make a branch called, I don't know, main character scripting. Again, you call them whatever they want as long as the branch name makes sense to the overall team. And you don't want to make the branch so broad that one branch, has 50 different things going on. Just make your branches concrete and simplistic to what the task is. So I've got it there. It says it does have the ability if we wanted to set up to track a branch. I'm going to leave that off for now. Press OK. And there it is. You see that I do have one up there. Press close. And it should tell me what branch I am currently on. So if we look up here in the upper left, it still says that I'm on the master branch. What we did is we created a branch, but we didn't actually switch branches. So one of the things we need to do once we've made our new branch is to go up to version control and now say I want to switch to a branch. This is the part that we talked about where we're now going to work in isolation. We're going to step back from the main team and begin to work on our ideas by ourselves. So I'm going to say I'm going to go work on the main character scripting branch. And it's going to switch over for us. It should now say main character scripting up there. And I'm just going to do something basic. I'm not going to do a whole lot of coding here, but I just want to add in, I'll make a variable here. Maybe I'll say this is where my variables are going to go. And I will make one, I'll make a float called speed and set it equal to 5f. Okay, so now I have added some code. And I'm going to go up into Unity and say File, Save All. And so that should have made a change overall. Okay, so the file has been changed. Okay, so now that I've made a change, what I'm going to do is choose to go ahead and commit my changes from this branch. So if I right click on the branch and say version control, and there should be an option that says review and commit. So what that's going to do is show me what files have been modified. So this is a nice little status tab. So those of you that are used to using Git commands, here's your status command, Git Status. And it says that there has been a change here to this particular file. I'm going to choose to commit, but you see that I can refresh if there's another update that you're waiting for it to pop up. And I can also revert files here, create a patch. I'm going to say I want to commit, and then I need to give a message. I'm going to say added speed float variable. Again, not a full sentence, just stating exactly what's different about this file prior to the previous change. And then it says right here, push changes to remote repository. You can choose to just commit it and leave it in the staging area, or that on deck circle that we talked about, which means it hasn't been pushed anywhere yet. Or you can say, listen, not only do I want to commit this file locally and save it, but I'm also going to push it to my repository. So then I'm going to push commit, and it says the username and email configured for the Git repository does not match the user information configured in Visual Studio. If you have a Visual Studio account or a Microsoft account, the two could be different. So I'm going to say, hey, use the Git configuration and press OK. Okay, so everything should be all right. I'm going to say, okay, well, it's asking what do you want to push to, origin, what branch. I don't want to push it to the master yet, so this should push it to the same branch up on GitHub. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to ask me for my username and password. You go ahead and type yours in when you're ready. And if all goes well, up here along the top, it should say push operation successfully completed. Now, I'm a Mac user, I'm a Linux user, I'm a Windows user every single day. What I will say is I do like how the Windows-based version of Visual Studio over here on the right-hand side that has the files in the project, essentially this area is over here, it will let you know in color code which files have been pushed to the repository, which ones have changes. It color codes them, and if I remember right, it's like red, yellow, green. Green meaning it's up to date, yellow meaning there's been some changes and it needs to be committed and pushed. So you'll get used to those colors. They will show up over here on your right side of the screen. Okay, so now that I've pushed to my repository, let's go take a look at our repository really quickly. So I'll say I want to look at code. And I'm going to switch over here to code. I'm going to go, I need to switch branches, right? There's my main character scripting branch. Reason I'm switching branches on the GitHub project page is because I just worked in isolation on the main character scripting branch that I created in Visual Studio. The push updated GitHub and said, hey, there's a new branch here. It's called main character scripting. I want to look at that branch's code, not the master, because I didn't push to the master. It's not, available for the whole team yet. So now if I click on main character scripting, it's going to show me what the main characters branch has on it, which up until this point should be duplicate to the master, but it's going to be different now. You see right here, here's my comment. It tells me that in the scripts folder, there is a file or files with a commit comment of added speed float variable. Happened 2 minutes ago. So if I click on that script, there it is. Don't click on the meta file. Click on the one that says .cs. And guess what? There is my comment. And there is my variable. So the last thing I need to show you is how do we take something from a local branch and merge it to the master. Let's say everybody in the team thinks this was a great comment I just made. This script is in great shape. It's ready to be used by everybody else on the team. Let's put it on the master branch. So let me show you how to do that. So if we go up here again to the project where it says the name of the branch, main character scripting, we can right click on it. And we have version control merge branch. So to take something from, basically a sub branch and put it onto the master branch, we have to merge them. So I'm going to say merge branch and then ask, or request you to select the branch to be merged with the current branch. So we are currently on main character scripting. We're going to choose to merge it with the master. So I'm going to choose merge. And it should bring up, let's see here if we have anything here. Everything looks good. Okay, so we have set that up so that it's being committed. We're going to right click here and say version control push changes. We merged the two. Now we need to push it up on the repository, make a permanent change. Push changes. And it's going to say push to which branch. I'm going to push to the master branch. It says yes, a main character script file was changed. You open up the little arrow, it's going to tell you exactly what was changed. I mean, it's really cool how all of this is kept track of. So now I'm ready to push this change right here in green. They highlight the difference in green. Even have an addition symbol, so you know this is the new addition. And we're going to push it to the master branch. So I will push right there. And operation successful. If I switch branches over here, let's see real quickly. Let me go over to my GitHub page. Let's go to master. And it's going to take a second to update here. Okay, if you're like me, you had a problem where you didn't see it change on the master. It's because the previous step we did something a little bit backwards. We need to switch over to the master over here and say that we want to merge branch. So from the master branch, merge with main character scripting. So we just did the merging backwards. So now if you right click on master branch and say you want to merge with the main character scripting class, then you will see it pop up right there. So now the master branch now has the updated code. I'm going to double check and see if we need to push that. Now I believe we should have to push that if we wanted to change in our repository. So I'm going to say push changes. There we go. We're going to push it to the master. And it is pushing right now as we speak. If I come back over here, I'm on the master page. If I refresh this script, there's our comment. So that is how we take something from a branch that we're working on in isolation and now merge it into the master branch so that everybody has access to those changes.